We have two reports, the first on the funerals themselves.
The funeral of Danny McCann was from his home at Cavendish Street, just off the Falls Road. Unlike other recent funerals of IRA men, there were no police and soldiers walking alongside the coffin, and none in sight along the route. It was a similar situation at Downfine Gardens in Turf Lodge, as the coffin of Sean Savage was brought from his home. The two funerals went to St Agnes's Church. There, Father Tom Toner referred to the shootings in Gibraltar. He said that 3 Irish people, whatever their plots, had been needlessly gunned down.
The use of the word murder has been questioned. Well, let me put it like this. If there is a war on, if the rules of war apply, if there be any such thing, then murder is not the right word. But where Christian rules apply, where the commandments of God apply, these killings were murder, just as the killing of soldiers and policemen is murder.
Outside St Agnes's Church, the coffins of Danny McCann and Sean Savage were joined by that of Mairead Farrell. At a requiem mass last night, Father Raymond Murray told mourners that she had been barbarously assassinated in Gibraltar. As the funerals made their way down the Andersonstown Road today, thousands of people walked behind the coffins. Several thousand more lined the streets. Throughout the entire afternoon, the security forces were not seen on the route as the funerals made their way to Milltown Cemetery.
The attack on mourners in the cemetery took place as the coffins were being lowered into the graves. There was chaos and panic as the gunman opened fire on mourners and threw grenades at them.
The burial service was well underway at the Republican plot in Milltown Cemetery when suddenly there were 5 explosions among the crowds standing nearest the parked hearses. Within moments, a gunman emerged, firing and throwing grenades at his pursuers. Grenade.
Can you hear them go? Shots are now being fired in the cemetery. Go ahead.
Guy throwing hand grenades and
shooting. Run away. The crowd is taking up and they're still firing. Yeah, there's another grenade. Look.
Watch out. The gunman ran towards the M1, pausing only to throw grenades or to fire at the pursuing crowd. Having reached the motorway, it appeared that he had no means of escape. There were suspicions about a white van which had been parked by the side of the motorway during the burial service, but it drove off shortly after the first explosions. The chase continued. The man made his way onto the motorway, a large crowd of mourners still in pursuit. There was one more grenade explosion moments later as the man was chased out of view behind a large warehouse. He apparently was eventually caught by the crowd. By this stage, the police had arrived on the motorway and a man was taken into custody. It's understood that the police later took a man to the city hospital to receive treatment. While this was going on, the injured were being taken to hospital from the cemetery by any means possible. Some walked, others were taken in vans or by black taxi. One taxi was met by an ambulance at the gates of the cemetery and an injured woman was transferred to the ambulance. As the emergency services continued to arrive at Milltown, there were scenes of chaos and panic mixed with anger and despair. Many people were still in a state of shock. Medical teams administered first aid inside the grounds of the cemetery until the ambulances arrived to take away the injured, 4 of them with major injuries according to the police. One man who was driving a van for a foreign television crew had a narrow escape, when the gunman opened fire on him as he made good his escape.
I was sitting in my minibus when the 3 burials took place, and after they were buried I still sat in the bus, and I heard a few shots going off, and I thought sure it was they were shooting off over the coffins. And next thing I heard a blast going off, and this big fella run down past my vehicle, and he turned around and he fired straight into my vehicle and hit me in the front windscreen, and he kept throwing blast bombs as he was going along.